Hello everyone and welcome to this session. This is Parul from SAP Business by Design, and today I would take you through the second highlight of Customer Relationship Management Business by Design Release 1711, which here mentioned is rebate management with extension fee. So let's get into the rebate management topic. Rebate management with extension field probably was the most requested feature after we did the rebate management release in 1708. Our current setup with 1708 of having the rebate agreement just on the product and the account was not sufficient for most of the business use cases, since almost every customer has a very special requirement or a criteria with which he wants to create a rebate agreement. With 1711, we have enabled the customer to now create his own extension fees and make it a part of the rebate agreement. In this way, we hope to address most of the business use cases that the customer might have, because we're now allowing him to have a lot of flexibility on the rebate agreement. How to do this? Let's get it in the system and see. So I would take you through a demo in which we would add a new extension field on the credit memo on the customer invoice request, and then run through the entire process of how to add this in a rebate agreement and then how to settle this rebate agreement. So here what I'm doing is I'm creating a new manual customer invoice, but before that I have to add a extension field. So I am in my adaptation mode, and here you see I quickly add a new extension field. So let's say our extension field is territory, because I want to create rebate agreements based on territory in addition to the account and the product that SAP has delivered. So let's see the section. Let's create a new uh, extension field called territory. And I save it. And then I would add it to the extension scenarios that have been delivered with this release. So let's get into the further usage, and we would add the extension scenarios. Now what you have to be careful here is you have to first add it to the extension scenario of pricing, because rebate agreement in turn uses pricing to do the rebate calculations of how much percentage and scale lines it should pick up. You should of course add it to the invoice request extension scenario to the customer invoice extension scenario. So you're supposed to go from customer invoice request to the customer invoice general information. The data should flow, and last not the least, the new extension scenario that we have delivered is the rebate agreement. So from this document, I also want this extension field to flow to the rebate agreement, because I want to create rebates with the combination of territory. I would add it, save it, and publish it. It takes just under a minute to do this in Business by Design. So let's do this. Okay, so once I've added it, and then I navigate and save it, and I quickly publish the changes to all the users. So now you can see territory has started coming up in our manual customer invoice, and now we have to put this in our rebate agreement. And before that, we published it to all the users, and then we go to the rebate agreement section. Okay, I'm still in the adaptation mode because I would like to finish the adaptation and then start the business process. So here, if you see in the rebate agreement, if you go to the unnamed group, which is the rebate agreement root, you would see territory has already started coming in. What we have to do is make it visible on the UI and then save and publish the changes here. Okay, so with this, we are done with setting up the extension scenarios and adding the extension fields in our documents, and we can start using this field productively to create rebate agreements. And before I do that, let me exit the adaptation node. So let's exit the adaptation node and create a rebate agreement. So I would use the account of my choice. And the product for which I would like to give a rebate agreement with. Since most of our master data is in dollars, I would put USD here. But what happens if you use some other currency here is that if your transaction document is in a separate currency than this, we would do currency conversions to convert and see how much is the accrued sales that is happening. Here, let's create 3 scale lines. Just for the demo purposes, I would start with 0. And then I would say, okay, if you have done a business of 500 USD with me, let's give it a 5%. And if you have done sale of 1,000 with me, let's give it a 10% discount. Okay, that sounds good. Let's save this and release it. And the territory I've mentioned is New York. So any document which now has New York should start accruing this. So once we have done that, let's create a manual customer invoice and post it with this data. So we would use the account that we had just used, and yes. Okay, let's enter the product. Okay, before that, let's enter the territory on which the rebate agreement has been created, and then we add the product to it. And now you see a price of 690 USD has been determined. And here you can see that it is part of a rebate agreement accrual by looking at the accrual rates that have been picked up. You can of course make them not visible to the end user by using the business configuration that we provide on configure pricing strategy. So this is completely configurable whether you want to see it, and then when you want to hide it, my recommendation would be to make it visible while testing, and then once you've done testing, you can hide it. Here what we did not do, and let's do that fast, is we did not make the territory visible on the customer invoice even though we had added it part of the scenario. So I would just add it in the adaptation mode. Even though now you see an error on the UI, this is because in the middle of a transaction while invoicing, I jumped into the adaptation mode. Invoicing has the invoice request has still been created because I pressed release before I entered the adaptation mode. So let's go and look at the customer invoice that has been created from our manual customer invoice request. So let's quickly go to the customer invoice. Since I had pressed release before that, it should have invoiced. Okay, the documents of today. Okay, this is the one that we just created. We would verify it very quickly and then we would release it. Okay, this is the one with New York territory that we just created. We would again cross-check the pricing and then immediately release it. So okay, so our accruals are there in the customer invoice also, and then now release it. What this does in the background is that we start accruing along with the rebate agreement how much sale has been happening and how much would then the accrual be, so that in case you start hitting your sales targets as per your rebate agreement, this much rebate credit memo has to be issued to the customer. So to give the visibility, before I go in the settlement, let's go into the reports that have been provided. What you can do here is select the rebate agreement that we just created. And if you see, it would already show you how much was your base amount on which I'm trying to accrue and how much is your accrued amount. What visibility this gives you is how much would you be liable to pay in case finally the sale has been met. In this case, the sale is already being met. The first scale line of 500 USD is met. And that's why you are looking at a possible credit memo of 69. Yeah, if no further sale happens on this combination. So let's pull up invoice and rebate agreement ID, which gives you more transparency as to which invoice led to the accrual and which rebate agreement ID also contributed to this accrual. Okay, once we're happy with the reports, let's settle this. We have finished all the sales that we had to do with this customer, and now we like to settle and issue him the rebate credits. So we just schedule the settlement, and once we schedule the settlement in the background, the system goes and sees everything that has been accrued with this rebate agreement, and it also creates automatically a rebate credit memo request. Now this has been also added as part of the rebate management work center view in 1711 as opposed to 1708 where you had to go back and navigate to customer invoicing work center view. So now everything is available in the same work center. What you would see here, the rebate credit memo that has been created has the rebate agreement ID and also how much would we like to settle. So let's go to pricing, and you see because it had only hit the second scale line and not the third scale line of 1000, even though the accruals that were mentioned were 10, the final settlement rate picked up was 5 because that's the second scale line. It did not hit 1000. So now you can invoice it and send the claim to your customer because he has managed to come to the agreement that you had with him. He of course did not create the 1000 sales but created 500 sales, and that's how you kind of track based on scales how much rebate you should give him. And that's all for the session today. Thank you for joining.